Hey all, I wanted to do a quick follow-up on the video I did about life force energy a little while ago because I had a realization this morning that kind of took that deeper and more expansively and in a broader sense. So I wanted to share that with you. And that is that life force energy is only in the present and is actually the same as now. And I talked before about the further you get from nature, the less health you have, or the less life force energy you have. And what I realized is that that is actually synonymous with presence. And by presence, that's not a woo-woo concept. By presence, I mean just having your attention here with what's happening now, which is the only reality. So raw food would be an aspect, a fluid aspect of that presence. So if you're eating something you just picked out of your garden, not only is it closest to the ground and closest to nature, as I talked about before, but it's also in the now. So life force energy only resides in the now. So if you're eating a tomato out of your garden, or if you are eating a can of beans that's whatever, it doesn't matter how old, you're on that spectrum, not only of closest to nature and of life force energy, but synonymously with the now. So the closer you are eating to the now, the more life force energy you're going to receive from that food. Now, food is just one aspect, and this applies to absolutely everything. And I think most impactfully, it applies to how we live our lives as far as what we put our attention on. And what can happen here, this line is reality. This is what's happening now. And of course, in reality is not a line, and time is not a real thing. There's just only here. And thoughts, even though they're happening now in the present, are often not about now. If they are about now, I call them either inspiration or integration. Inspiration is something that's coming up that you're feeling inspired to do. Integration is felt energy bubbling up from the past that's coming up to be integrated. Those two would be present, but often our thoughts are about something in the future or something in the past. And those things don't exist. So if you see the line of the here and the now, the presence, where life force energy is, and you are going up here on a thought or down here on a thought, doesn't matter sort of if it's positive or negative, or if it's about past or future, it really doesn't exist. And so you are not being nourished by life force energy. Also, a lot of other things happen when you sort of live in your mind. You're not living in reality. And so you're not actually responding to what's here and now, and you're not really living your life. And the more of those things we do that are on the death end of that life energy spectrum that goes from alive to dead, and there are a lot of things in between, the more you're on the life end, the more vibrant and alive and present you are. And those things go together. The fact is that we can't actually be fully on the death side because we are life until we're dead. So the fact that we can survive, on packaged processed food-like products that are so far canned foods, completely dead, no life energy left in them. We can survive on that because we are life itself. But imagine the life energy reading, the difference in energies between someone who's eating foods out of the garden, foods right from the source, from the present moment. They're growing now. Imagine the difference in the reading between that person and the person who's eating dead foods. It's just, you can feel it. You can see it in their skin. It's just a completely different life. And everything falls on that spectrum. So what our houses look like inside. Do we have views of nature? Do we have plants in our home? Do we let light and air into the home? It's all on that spectrum between life and death, between present and not present. And it's all cumulative. So if you want to feel vibrant and healthy and alive, it's not just about the food, but the food we are absorbing from the insides of our bodies. We're literally feeding our cells, our consciousness, every process that's happening in our body internally with food. So it's such a big one. It's such a big one, and it's such an easy one. But also everything else matters. Are we putting our feet on the earth? Are we getting that grounding energy from the earth, that life force energy? Are we engaging with people and activities that we feel inspired by, inspired towards? Or are we just sort of holding together a consistency or an image for safety, or an image so that we think of ourselves in a certain way? I know that I catch myself with that quite often. But this realization for me, and I think in general, is huge. I'm actually writing a book about this, but I thought I'd share little pieces of it for you, because we have really been tricked. We have been sold down the river and tricked by this corporate culture. And even the word natural has been co-opted for corporate gain. The word natural, as I'm always saying, has no legal definition. It's just co-opting the concept of nature, because on some level we know that nature equals life and health and is what we need to come back to. But instead of actually going into nature, instead of actually eating natural foods, bringing nature into our homes, into our caves that we live in now, we've been sold this concept of nature, and we have been taught to unlearn our connection with ourselves, our connection with nature, and have been handed these processed food-like substances, have been handed shoes, and all of this stuff has been normalized. I'm not dissing shoes. Like, shoes have a purpose. But we've forgotten that our feet on the earth are what we're naturally meant to be doing, and that our bodies need that energy from the earth. And all of these things that would actually bring us back to life and break this shell of complacency and safety have been sort of removed from our consciousness, so that we could be sold products and services that we don't actually need. We wear makeup so that we can look like we're healthy. Also, I'm not dissing makeup, because I wear a little bit of makeup too, and that's just a personal thing. But in general, if we're exercising, if we're sleeping well, if we're attuning our life with nature, or if we're not looking at screens at night, if we're going to bed when the sun goes down, if we're waking up when the sun wakes up, these are natural rhythms that our bodies know and aspire to, even when we are completely unaware consciously that that's what they're doing. And we can look at these things and align with them and come back to the knowing of our bodies and come back to life and get off of this spectrum of death, or at least come more this way, where we are living in the flow of life force energy, which means we're living in the present. So anything we can do to just support kind of that realization, like really getting that and integrating the pain that comes up and just being with it so that we can stop living out of a protection. And this is directly from my life. This is something I'm in hugely, and coming more and more back to life. And I just wanted to share that with you. So I hope you have a wonderful day and that you're feeling alive and lively and are looking at maybe that spectrum a little bit differently, or realizing for the first time there is a spectrum between life and death, between presence and absence of presence, between just really, really living your life and just sort of continuing to create old patterns because they feel safe. That's not what we're here for, at least in my opinion. So thanks for listening. I love sharing with you guys, and I'll have a book at some point again. Bye.